سبيل الدموع سبيل مريح تنهد يا صاحي كي تستريح
ولا تيأسوا من روح الله إنه لا ييأس من روح الله إلا القوم الكافرون. And do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, no one despairs of the mercy of Allah except the disbelieving people. This verse comes from the story of a man who knew heartbreak in one of its deepest forms, Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam. Yaqub lost Yusuf, the son he loved dearly, not just for a short while but for years. Years of not knowing, years of grief, years of carrying a pain that never really left him. The Quran tells us that his sorrow was so intense that it affected his eyesight. This wasn't a man who felt a little sad and moved on. This was a broken heart. And yet, what stands out is this: Yaqub never lost hope in Allah. When his sons returned to him again, tired, ashamed, and almost hopeless themselves, he didn't respond with bitterness. He didn't say, "It's over," or "There's no point anymore." He said, اذهبوا فتحسسوا من يوسف وأخيه ولا تيأسوا من روح الله. Go and search for Yusuf and his brother and do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Allahu Akbar. If anyone had a reason to despair, it was him, and yet he didn't. When we hear the word heartbreak, many of us immediately think of love. A relationship that didn't work, a marriage that ended, someone we imagined a future with who is no longer in our lives. But heartbreak is wider than that. It can be losing a child, or a diagnosis you never expected, or watching a loved one in pain and not being able to do anything. And often, the hardest part of heartbreak isn't the pain itself. It's what comes after. The fear of trusting again. The fear of opening your heart again. The fear of going through that pain one more time. A few months ago, I was talking with a friend about someone we both know who had gotten married for the third time. The thought of going through that again, of opening your heart after it's been hurt, felt almost impossible. We reflected on how much courage it must take to step forward despite the fear of heartbreak. I remember thinking, as someone who is in a second marriage, just how real that fear is. And yet, that's how we live. Hopefully. Allah gives us chances. Just because one door closes doesn't mean that's the end. And I truly believe that. Because hope is what keeps us moving after heartbreak. Hope is what allows someone to try again, even when they've been hurt before. Hope is what allows a believer to get back up while life keeps knocking them down. Hope isn't pretending things don't hurt. Hope is choosing not to give up on Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in a hadith Qudsi, Ana inda dhanni abdi bi. I am as my servant thinks of me. Meaning the way we think of Allah matters. Do we think He has abandoned us, or do we believe His mercy is still near? I recently learned something about hope from a friend that stayed with me deeply. When her mom was diagnosed with a cancer, she had just started her PhD. Everything could have stopped there, but instead from her hospital bed, she continued working on her PhD. She completed certifications, she kept learning, she kept striving right until the very end. And after she passed away, may Allah forgive her beautiful soul, one of her Quran teachers told us how consistent she remained, even from her hospital bed. From a hospital bed. If that isn't hope, I don't know what is. That's someone who knew her reality but refused to let despair define her heart. Someone who understood that as long as you're breathing, Allah still has a purpose for you. And this is exactly what our religion teaches us. Islam is built on hope. Hope in Allah's mercy, hope in forgiveness, hope that no pain is wasted, hope that what we don't understand now will make sense later, if not in this life, then in the next. And this brings us to the Hijrah of the heart. When we move away from despair and choose trust, when we move from heartbreak towards hope. Yes, heartbreak, but sometimes they break so that they soften, so that they return to Allah more sincerely, so that they learn to hope again, not in people, but in Him. And this is why Allah ends our opening verse with such a powerful reminder. إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. For no one despairs of the mercy of Allah except those who do not truly believe. In other words, hope is not optional for a believer. Hope is part of faith. Even when the heart is broken, even when the road is long, even when the ending is unclear. So don't give up on hope, because hoping in Allah is an act of worship, and trusting His mercy is a sign that faith is still alive in the heart. And so we end with a dua for every heart that is still trying. Allahumma ajirni fi musibati wa akhlif li khayrun minha. Oh Allah, reward me for my hardship and replace it with something better. Amen.
واهجر فؤادا توكل بجد بعزم فصيح فإني علمت بأنك نجوى ولبس